Welcome to another episode of CFOs Not Talking Finance. Today we have Sumit Jain, who is spearheading the IPO readiness for one of the most loved Indian fashion brands, which is Kalki Fashion. Before this, he was at PharmEasy, IGP, all three setups which have a lot of chaos, but he has built systems that have actually scaled. And very interestingly, instead of introducing himself as saying, I have led so many millions and crores in fundraising, he actually says that I gave so many craftspeople their job. So I think that is something which gives us a lot of insight into Sumit as a person who wants to build a life with a lot of purpose. So we're very honored that and very thankful, Sumit, that you've come here on this episode of CFOs Not Talking Finance. We want to start off by asking you about your journey. Your grandfather was an entrepreneur, and your father had to, work hard and have a steady job. How did that play out into, your journey? And I know that the night that your results came, your parents cried. So we would love to know more about the journey and how you decided to become a CA.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for giving me this platform. Because my grandfather was an entrepreneur and businessman from the start of the day. My 3-4 PDs basically in Rajasthan we said PDs. So last 3-4 PDs were businessmen only basically. But my grandfather was died earlier when my father was in 8th standard itself, and the business collapsed basically on that time, and he has to work really hard to not only complete his study but also to give us a life which we deserve basically. So he works continuously 30 plus years in Calcutta. We were into Rajasthan, so it was always a challenging job for us, for not only for him but also for us. Me, my mother, elder sister and younger brother lives in Rajasthan, but that discipline which we learn over there, the sacrifices which they made clearly seen to us, and that's the only motivation basically which gives us the right direction to join CA and then prove ourselves that failures will be there always, but through these failures how you come up will make you a strongest person basically. So from cricket to CA journey or becoming a CFO is, I think I was not ready for that journey from start of my career or start of my childhood, but slowly, gradually, whatever I did to prove the legacy or create the legacy again for my grandfather and like to give a right life to me, my wife, my life and my family as well basically. That's the ultimate thing which gives me a clear motivation.
And I think as CFO of three very varied companies, right? PharmEasy, IGP, and now Kalki Fashion. You are playing a much bigger role than a normal conventional CFO. And that generally happens in these companies that tend to scale fast and grow fast. So do you also feel like a bit of an entrepreneur yourself?
Yeah, that's I enjoyed a lot basically because as I mentioned to you, that my grandfather was an entrepreneur, and I always want to become a businessman only. So whenever I joined into like the Kalki Fashion, the Me and Moms, the IGP and the PharmEasy, the only question I ask to them is, then I will become a business partner for you or not. That's the vision I carry whenever I join. So to give you a right breakup or right journey, like how I move ahead basically. So I joined as a commercial manager in Clear Polyfab India Private Limited, which was a manufacturing setup altogether. After completing my academics and the articleship into CA. So on that time, I was heading the complete commercial department for the Clear Polyplast, which is a manufacturing setup. We set up almost like 3-4 plants over there basically, and understood how the ground reality works, how the actual production works, how the workers behaves, how the teams who works into the production actually behaves basically, which gives me a clear direction that creating the business plan on Excel does not works. When you do your hand dirty and go on a ground, understand the ground reality, then you will be able to create the right business plan. I think these first 4 years, create a complete foundation for me, what I am right now today. And then after these 3-4 years, the stable manufacturing environment, then I joined basically the PharmEasy, which was like a crazy startup on that time. In 2018 eras, no one wants to join startups because there is no job security at all basically for our kind of Indian families basically who comes from these backgrounds. But I took that challenge because on that time, the VP Finance, Mr. Jitendra Nagpal and Abhinav Ranka said one thing only, that whatever you learn here in 1 year, you will learn in 4 years in other companies. So, because the startups grows with 10x speed, the type of systems you have to build, the kind of SOPs, the kind of people you have to build, is required to work in a phase that can achieve 10x speed with the venture ambitions, the PE ambitions basically. So over there, I learned how to participate into fundraising activities, how to build the functions, how to create the controls, how to face the big four audits as well basically, because on earlier times in articleship we were doing the audits. Correct. But while sitting on the other end with the big fours, you know how to tackle them now basically. So those all things I learned over there basically under Jitendra Nagpal, Abhinav Ranka, then comes Mr. CV Ram, Mr. Narayan, who was the CFO. So these during these 2 years, I worked with like a lot of people, along with like the good founders, which was like Dhaval and Dharmil, really fantastic founders. Basically, their aim, which I liked a lot, is like not only create wealth for the founders or the investors, but create the wealth for the employees, create the wealth for the vendors, create wealth for the customers and the society basically. That funda will create a real impact in the business basically. And then after PharmEasy basically, I joined IGP as a AVP Finance. I was the head of finance over there. Build the complete finance from scratch. Develop the real-time dashboards for them. Build real business plan which can translate into the real journey. Like during these 3-4 years of journey into IGP, we clearly see a spike of 6x in the revenue. Wow. 7x into elevations basically. I raised close to $40 million into equity and work with like such a good investors like Motilal Oswal, Bernard Ricard, DSG Consumer, which will uplift yourself basically. So our CEO, Mr. Tarun Joshi of IGP, always tell us like build a finance function with a perspective that your team will be able to succeed with the venture ambitions, the PE funds ambitions of IGP basically. Because the gifting market, how the potential is basically. If we go in a right direction, we can achieve 100x as well into revenue basically. So building the finance team with the perspective that it can scale up 10x, then also your system should not fail basically. That's the ultimate motivation and gives a clear separate direction to me when Tarun said this thing to me, and then we build the function accordingly. And while building the function initially for one and a half year, after that from him I learned how to manage the investors, how to manage other stakeholders, how to become a one team in the organization, and how the organization will be the first one basically only. That's the principle whenever you are in the work. That's the only principle you should carry basically. So that's what I learned from Mr. Tarun basically, and led like in PharmEasy I was just assisting the fundraise, but in IGP I was the led it basically. And then I joined Me and Moms for 1 year basically, and then I joined Kalki Fashion. In Kalki Fashion, I think the main thing is it's a globally loved Indian brand,
Right.
with rooted to the heritage value of India basically. So whatever products they are creating is creating to showcase the lux life of Indians and making every customer celebratory in their occasion, which is I think creating a right impact on the business as well. I think because I do all those things, the international expansion, the fundraising, the investor management, the stakeholder management, the one thing I learned into Kalki Fashion in last 6 months basically is the one thing: lead with the clear direction and lead with the integrity basically. Create a team which can drive board level governance and create one team which can achieve the goals of the 3 years basically. We does multiple training programs under Vento group basically in Kalki Fashion, and that changed my perspective towards life, not only personal but as well as the work life as well.
So these are trainings that are both corporate as well as for
The
leadership.
personal and the corporate as well. So to give you a brief overview, the Landmark group has two arms. One is Landmark itself, who does individual trainings, and the second is Vento group, who does the corporate trainings basically. That removes the barriers basically which you have sometimes, because we are CAs, we always think about finance, profits, sales, etc., and we limit ourselves to that. But these trainings will clearly remove your barriers, and you will able to surely achieve the desired results which you want to achieve into the businesses basically.
Wonderful. Is this an initiative that you spearheaded, or was it already there in Kalki?
Yeah, so it was already there over there, but I have participated, and now we have created a bigger team. Earlier, it was restricted towards some of the person in the Kalki. Now we have created a bigger team basically who can participate, and the founder vision is later on they want to make learners into leaders. So we will expand that team also, which gives them a clear direction that we are one team. We works only for a one vision, one goal of the organization.
Wonderful. And all of these entities that you mentioned, they're all so different in terms of the pace, in terms of the business model. So PharmEasy is very different from IGP, very different from the earlier manufacturing company that you said, and of course now very different from Kalki. What is one principle that you have tried to emulate in all the companies, in all the roles, however different your roles were? But one particular principle that you said, no, I will carry this with me regardless of where I go.
So one principle, if you want to say, is uncompromised about integrity. That is the first principle I always carry whenever I go. The second thing is the business partnering. How can you partner in the business in a more passionate way is the thing which drives me a lot basically. So now I can contribute towards sales, ops, inventory, audits, and other functions as well. So now I think during these years I am now able to contribute with the tech as well.
Right.
So I can partner with tech as well, and give them logics how to develop and help them also wherever they are facing difficulties, which was not there in when I joined from the day one basically. So these skills comes when you deeply integrate with the business.
Yeah.
So whenever you deeply partnered with the business, that is the only one thing basically which will make you successful and which will make business also successful. So we are creating leaders into the organization who has a single purpose and who can integrate with the team. We don't want to hire an intelligent or smartest person in the organization. We always want to hire a
Someone
person who can
curious.
lead the business with a clear direction.
And
Not
curious
not
about-
having the
Right, I'm curious about constantly wanting to learn more, upskill themselves. It's interesting that you mentioned, business partnering as something that is a priority for you whenever you take on a new challenge. Because I think what you also mentioned is there have been times when you have been the adult in the room and you've taken certain decisions that maybe the other people who are on the chair couldn't exactly take, or rather you push them towards making the right decisions, or difficult decisions even though they were the right or wrong. Can you give us some examples of this?
Sure. So basically, because as a CFO, I think everyone, including the investors, expect from you that you become the adult in the room and say no to some things. Basically, you can't say yes to everything. Basically, so my philosophy is clear that every decision should be data backed. In over these years, basically, what I understood is whatever happened after completing so say suppose earlier SCAs we were publishing the MIS or results after a month completion, basically through books closing, etc as well.
Right.
But now with the era of AI, automation, etc, what I have clearly changed in my organizations during these 4 5 10 years, basically the business owners should have their P&L from the day one itself. So they know yesterday what they have done. Till yesterday, they know their sales, their gross margins, their CM1, their CM2, their EBITDA from the day one. So they know, say suppose to give you a clear example, someone wants to do a sale of 10 crore rupees with the EBITDA of 10%. He knows today is 19th. He knows till 18th how much he does, how much is balance, how much only not only in terms of sales but also in terms of EBITDA. So that's kind of systems which we have built, which help them business owners to take the right decision making. Because sometimes क्या होता है, business is not a predictable business. Every business can't be predictable. कि you will go a steady state and you will do a growth. Sometimes there will the years where you will be stable, like you have done a 5,000 crores rupees of revenue and you are वापस 5,000 crores की revenue. There is no growth at all. But on that time, you can understand from that business partner like what is the things which are keeping you behind, basically. And when you give these kind of real-time information to them, they will be able to take the right decision with the right perspective, and they know why these decisions are taken. So while you are saying no, so coming back to our questions, while you are saying no, they know what is the perspective of saying no. It's not about why you said no. So alignment is more important just before passing the judgment, because we are not the judge. We are the business partners, basically. So whenever you are the business partner, you make everyone to align your decision, which can only happen with the real-time decision or data.
Right, and I think this goes back to what your CA mentor had told you a long time ago when you were a lot younger, that technical expertise without judgment is useless. And I think that's exactly what you also just explained to us about. So how much has that affected how you perceive things?
So I always perceive things in a manner that, like, generally I see multiple guys into finance. They follow the rule book, basically. They think that whatever written in the rule is the thing which we have to follow blindlessly. Whereas my thought process is always like, we can do an intelligent compliance. That's the difference, basically. So whenever we have to open any vertical, any international expansion as well, if we go by a rule book, then it will take years to establish a business international segments. But if you know what needs to be done and how to done basically those things in a proper manner, and what are the partners available who can do your work, which you can do in 6 months can be done in 15 days, then it creates a separate value. So give you an example as well. While in IGP, I set up companies in Singapore and UAE as well, basically. So during that time, basically, because of expertise, we will be able to launch our stores, warehouses over there within like 2 months, 3 months time frame. If we will not take these kind of decision making on that time, then it will take years to open, and it will ultimately impact the valuation, business, etc. as well. So intelligent compliance is what required. It's not following the rule book. Rule book is required because rules are there for reason. But wisdom, my mentor said me, wisdom is when to apply and how to apply those rules.
Right. That's more important.
That's more important basically.
Understood. And while you, of course, highly regard your mentor and you credit them for your principles, you also like to mentor a lot of young professionals and also women in finance specifically. So, what is the thing that you tell them now, which you wish someone had told you in your career?
Yeah. So, for me, for leading finance is like I follow a balance approach basically. Something is which you can't compromise. Something is you can leave. So becoming a balance, not very strict, not very lenient, it's a balance approach basically. And the second thing is basically as CFO, your job is to transform complexity into simplicity, data into actionables. So the same thing will follow through to your team. How you make them understand that, say, to give you an example, for fundraising, every big four will give a due diligence checklist. It's not about filling them basically. It's about while filling, what would be the impact of that checklist on our business, or the follow-up questions will be there. So making them understand what they do, what is the impact on the business, and what is the ultimate outcome or the impact they are creating. So how they are more partnering in the business. So I always feel finance is not a back-end function. I always feel it's a front-end function who can lead the business, because finance is the language of business.
Correct.
Finance is the language of business. So how you give knowledge transfer to your team, not only your finance team but also to the other team's member. The way you give the knowledge, the way they will lead the function. And the principle I carry is making learners into leaders. So whenever I work, to whomsoever I work, basically I always try to make them leader, not learners basically. To how to uplift from learners to leaders is my motivation.
Right. And I think you come from a family where your grandfather took risks. He was an entrepreneur, but your dad did not, and he had to be there as a stable figure. But you have consciously chosen high growth, high ambition companies that are either funded or or on that journey. And we said earlier about how you want to make your grandfather's legacy, and that's why you also act like an entrepreneur even though you're a CFO. So in all of these places, do you think what would your grandfather have done differently, or what are you trying to emulate when it comes to your family values?
So actually I never seen my grandfather, but heard a lot of story about him basically. But one thing I think, because every businessman wants two things only. The first thing is basically their steady state revenue growth, bottom and top line growth basically. The second thing is the social impact which they will be able to make with the legacy or the business they have created. So basically while I join IGP, PharmEasy, etc., which has purpose basically, because I want to create a social impact as well. So while I joined PharmEasy, I was just wanted to understand how they will be able to help like crores of people with giving instant delivery of medicine. Like earlier it was so difficult to get medicine basically.
Absolutely.
You can't get medicine at doorsteps basically, which is completely evolved by them. The kind of testing which we does at going to hospitals, they does it doorsteps. So the kind of impact they create, the kind of job creation they do motivates me a lot. In IGP, we work with 10,000 plus artisans, because we do like traditional gifting basically for multiple occasions like Rakhi, Diwali, Bhai Dooj, Karwa Chauth, New Year, Holi, etc. Father's Day, Mother's Day nowadays basically. So in these areas, the product of the artisans, taking into market and giving them right price, is creating a separate motivation basically, which is not about our personal growth but also giving a steady state social life to them basically. And the same thing goes into Kalki as well. We work with lots of karigars, we work with lots of designers basically, so to give them right direction and basically to make their idea into the business and make it public, to give a right recognition to them basically, is the clear motivation.
So clearly that is more satisfying and fulfilling for you than just looking at, margins and, numbers on an Excel sheet. Doing this is something that brings you a lot more satisfaction.
Yes. Because ultimately we have only one life. I think in Jainism we said like after 84 lakhs yonis you will become the human again. And this is the first chance or the last chance after 84 lakhs yonis that you will again become the human. So it always like you should give a right impact on the social circle as well. Whatever you can do, you should do basically. That's what the principle of Jainism teaches us.
Wonderful. And even I think when you were talking about the craftsmen in IGP, and now you mentioned karigars in Kalki, and going, if I have to take a parallel with how many crores you've raised in your first 6 months itself, but you've always said it's not about numbers, it's about doing it the right way. So is that something, how are you able to translate that to your junior team members? How are you able to kind of teach them the same principles that have kept you going? How do you make it a point to because this is not about an IFRS training, this is not about giving them an automation course or AI training, this is about actively imbibing them with principles that are important and fundamental to you. So how do you do that?
So basically like in traditional companies basically, what finance guys are doing is just they are portraying the problems and thinking that someone will give the solution. That's what I think everyone does. Like the AP guys comes and said ki GRN is not doing on time or production is not going as per plan. So I have a different approach basically, or we are not getting the right document for doing the compliances, like e-waybill is not doing multiple other things, blah 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 basically. But I have a different perspective towards that basically. Whenever my colleague is coming to me for having these problems, I always tell them basically, I first sit down with them, understand the complete data, and then make them understand. If you go over there for a one day itself only, then you can see a miracle and change in the complete SOP and the systems over there. So I does it at Kalki Fashion. Earlier we were having lots of issues in terms of returns, etc. over there. But now, by sending one from my team, one person to warehouse, creates a separate thought process in terms of the warehouse management teams. That now finance is coming to ground level to solve the issues. And that gives them comfort कि यार कुछ भी हो जाए finance तो हमारे साथ ही है.
Understood. Instead of an email,
we have to solve the things together now.
Yeah.
So how you lead people is how you give them a right direction. क्योंकि प्रॉब्लम तभी सॉल्व होगी जब आप ग्राउंड लेवल पे जाओगे. That's what I learned in my initial career in Clear Polyfab India Private Limited. Like जब कंपनी स्टैब्लिश हो रही थी, if I will not go on a ground level and see how the factory is built, how the production is coming out, then I will not be able to create plans successfully. That's what I am translating to my team, that go visit, see actual reality. Then you understand what needs to be improved. From HO, passing a comment is easy, but seeing a ground reality is completely different.
So what you're actually doing is you're driving empathy from both sides so that they realize the situation instead of escalating, instead of sending an email. Like you said, passing a comment by HO is easy, but sending your person there to the ground, they also realize the hardships that the other team has. So what you're essentially doing is you're trying to fuel a lot of empathy, between the two.
Between them and make them one company.
Yeah.
Organization first approach in their mind. They should not feel we are only finance. They should feel we are a single company.
And at the same way, you said the other team also should feel like, okay, finance has our back. So, it's not that we are against them or they are against us. It's one large company. So, I think, wonderful learnings for us today. And if we have to ask you finally, what does, of course, I know you cannot reveal too much, but what does Kalki's IPO moment look like for you? What would be a key success metric for you, other than the numbers aspect of it?
So the key thing basically for us is making Kalki a globally loved brand. Not only for India, but also for outside India.
Yeah.
Kalki is right now a bigger brand into US than India. In US, people loves a lot to Kalki. And the second thing which I clearly want is the geographical expansion. Not only in terms of D2C or e-commerce, but also the physical presence over there. And the third thing is basically the social impact in the life of karigars, designers, customers. Making the customer celebrity basically for their occasion is the ultimate impact which we want to create basically. And the one principle we want to establish for our organization is brand promise is ultimately the promise for everyone. So whosoever, like we have 1500 people currently into Kalki. Anyone into 1500, if said one thing to anyone, it should be implied to 1500 people. They have to complete that. So the kind of integrity innovation we want to do is the principle. IPO is a journey. It's not the end of the era. It's the first step towards the journey. How we establish or how our founder established the organization. When they were doing their own wedding, they found this gap. That's how they established this organization. They were settled, doing a good business or good jobs into overseas countries. Basically, all three brothers, like Saurabh Gupta, who is the CEO, the Shishir Gupta, who heads the complete retail business and the director as well. The third is Nishit Gupta, who is the CMO and the marketing head as well.
I think over all my friends and anyone in our age group now, owning a Kalki lehenga or having a Kalki lehenga for any of your events in the wedding is such a landmark moment, and it is something that you feel like you need to earn. And you when you go and you ultimately make that purchase, I think it is very, very satisfying. It is something, like you said, the brand story, it transcends. It's not just a lehenga anymore. It is about, you feel like you're part of a heritage, and I think that goes towards what you're saying in terms of building a brand that is globally loved. I think Kalki is a very important part of your wedding shopping and your wedding trousseau, and for every woman. So I think that is something which you've already achieved, and you're just going to build on that love and that trust and that legacy, and you're going to create something great. And with you at the helm, I think they only have upwards and onwards to go. So thank you so much, Sumit, for being on our episode, and we absolutely learned so much from you. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I had a good time, Chitra, and thanks a lot. These memories reminds me how I grown up basically, and what I am doing right now.
I think it's very inspiring for anyone who is, of course, while our listeners are mostly seasoned finance professionals, if there is anyone who is younger, who is, maybe just thinking about doing CA, or they've just freshly qualified, I think they'll find a lot of inspiration from your journey. But if you had to, tell a freshly qualified CA some word of advice, what would that be?
Don't run for technical skills. They will come because you become a CA, then technical skills will always be there. Always think what impact you can create on the business. So business partnering in whatever department you work, ultimately the main aim should be how you become a business partner into a business, which will create the right impact. Now, CFO role is not only CFO; it's a COFO role, like Chief Operating Finance Officer, basically. So COO plus CFO role both combined and now become a COFO role, basically.
Oh, wonderful. That's a nice little nugget of information that, I think should catch on, because you're right. Because CFOs don't just look at numbers in isolation, they're also heavily involved in operations. So I think this is a very good takeaway for us about the COFO role. Thank you so much, Sumit. And I hope this was not too much to ask for on a Saturday.